Hi there, Dr. Joseph Martin here again. A beautiful day on planet Earth. The discussion for today is again in a series of issues around death and the fear of death. So, the topic for today is you cannot die. Even if you wanted to, you couldn't die. You will always be somewhere in the universe. And so, the topic will be mostly importantly to focus on the purpose for death and to train your mind and your consciousness on where you need to be going after you die. That is dropping the physical overcoat, because your soul, your consciousness will be exactly where you were at the moment you left your physical body. Now, how can I talk about these things? Well, there are 5 ways in which I've come to know for certain how these things are. And as we know, Jesus said, the truth shall set you free. First and foremost, it's my personal experience that I came in as a conscious being into my mother's womb in Toronto, Ontario in 1950, and I was aware of speaking to many great spiritual masters and a lot of great scientists who have studied this over the last few centuries here on planet Earth. That's the first thing, and it's my daily experience that I am a conscious eternal soul. Secondly, I can be aware through my scientific research as a social cultural anthropologist that all the cultures of the world, ancient and modern, particularly the bands and the tribes and the chiefdoms, have understood that the soul is immortal. We know from all the shamanistic techniques that actually where the shaman will go into the spirit world, or the medicine woman or the medicine man, and there garner some knowledge, usually from the ancestors or some other great spirit beings, and come back with either a message or a prophecy or a vision for the people, or in fact, and often, many cases, just the healing techniques or modalities, or whatever they may be for the people. The Tibetan people still today do this. They're aware of the great spirit beings that support them in the spirit world that come through for them when there's a healing to be done. And as archaeologists, we know that all the ancient civilizations, that most of them are gone now, except for ancient India, we have the Mayans, the Aztecs, the Toltecs, the Incans, the Olmecs, the Egyptians, and on and on and on, who left grave goods for their ancestors that they were burying their physical corpse, but it's just an overcoat, and leaving them grave goods so that they could carry on their journey from the good red road of the earth walk in the third dimension, as we say in the native way, to the blue road of spirit. There is a journey to be taken by the soul and the consciousness in the fourth and the fifth dimensions, and we'll get to that in a bit. So these grave goods and useful objects were to help the soul move forward on their journey after the physical corpse had been let go. Now, also, as a student of all the religions and mystical traditions of planet Earth, again, ancient and modern, I'm aware that all of these traditions have the truth and the awareness of some notion that the soul is immortal and it's infinite. Fourthly, and on my clinical experience as a psychologist in Canada, having worked with Dr. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, having worked with many thousands of clients individually and in workshops and in hospitals who had cancer and were on their way out from the third dimension and preparing for their journey in the fourth and fifth dimensions, the soul knows that it's going to be leaving the body and it can move forward and needs to have some conscious capacity for techniques and methodologies to allow itself to take the journey. I've been sitting there in front of and holding hands with hundreds of people in palliative care units and in my own clinic when they were dying, supposedly, of course, this is the illusion, isn't it? And ready to take their last breath, surrendered to the end of this physical third dimensional existence, and in some cases joyfully, some cases sadly, ready to journey onwards. And so it's been a great experience for them to uh, see the light and to observe them seeing the great light. Usually their eyes take on a different vista. They start to shine. They start to look into the other world, the spirit world, the true world, and they hear the voices of their deceased relatives or spouse or parents, brothers or sisters calling them, and they decide that it's time to move forward. And then, with some coaching on my part, just telling them to surrender and let go. This is going to be a credible journey. Of course, usually if you're in that state of knowing that the soul is immortal, you're going to be so joyful to leave a very sick, unhealthy, and pain body, physical. Of course, we cry if we're still left here in the third dimension, but they can be very joyful only if you know exactly where you're going, what to do. And fifthly, and perhaps most importantly, my own parents, my other deceased relatives, and many of my clients who are now deceased and in the spirit world, I talk with them daily. And they give me some advice. Of course, I need all the help I can get. And I ask them how they're doing, and we have great conversations. Now, everyone in the world is increasing in their capacity to be intuitive. And as we all know, everyone in the planet now with this amazing new super consciousness coming will increase their capacity to be psychically, spiritually awake and aware to contact any and everyone in the spirit world. So these 5 ways are the ways in which I know the truth about the fact that you cannot die, the soul is immortal. Having said all that, let's discuss how you get to understand this, and then actually what happens when the soul does leave the physical corpse. Well, you can understand all this basically through yoga and meditation. You can awaken your consciousness to the higher light, which will come into your heart and magnetize it and explode it open in a positive, joyful way. And your third eye needs to be opened up as well, so that you can actually see the light coming into you and you can experience the fullness of the cosmic consciousness and the Christ consciousness, or we could call it Buddha consciousness, we could call it Muhammad consciousness, bless his holy name, peace be upon him, or any of the great spiritual masters, just to name, but it is an experiential space in the Akasha of the higher dimensions. We've already discussed the issues and the knowledge and the truth around karma and reincarnation. And so if you've had a very positive life and you've dealt with all your karmas and your energy blockages and so on, and you've created a renewed awareness of the goodness of your soul, because every soul is good and perfect in its own way, then you may also, through lots of yoga and meditation, be in such an awakened state that when you release the physical coil, you will automatically go into the highest light. Now, we call this moksha, or liberation in Sanskrit in the Hindu terminology. We call it nirvana in Buddhism. And in the Gnostic Christian tradition here globally now, we call it heaven. And there are many levels to heaven, and we'll get into that in future videos. However, very few people are fully self-liberated, and you may want to choose to have this as a goal for yourself in this life. As the Buddha used to say, you don't have to do it all in one life. If you want to stay here and continue to experience your desires and your wants and your needs and your fears, then you can come back as many times as you want. And that could be fun. However, some of us want to just keep moving forward and evolve through the cosmos. If you have certain fears and desires that will take you to the lower astral planes, and there are 49 sub-levels to the astral emotional planes in the 4th dimension, then you may find that you are required by cosmic law, and they are like the laws of physics, to take rebirth in an ovum with a sperm and an egg here back in the human form, sometimes in the dog form, within 49 days. That's the Buddhist cycle for 49 days, and then the soul comes back. Let's just back up a little bit here. The soul travels every single night when your physical body is sleeping. Now, some of you may remember your dreams and some of you may not. But whether or not you're in a dream or a dreamless state, the soul always travels at night into the fourth dimension. And it's only when the soul knows that the physical body cannot support it in a healthy way any longer, or through an accident, that the soul is permanently cut off from the physical body. We have lots of rituals among the indigenous peoples of the world, and in fact our own major religious traditions culturally, to sit Shiva, or to have a 10-day period where the soul is accepted within the community and even fed some food, and then kind of the food's physically put there on the plate, and it's sort of an astral experience for the soul to just imbibe a bit of the energy from that. But after the 10th day particularly, sometimes the 3rd day, the soul is encouraged to move on into the astral plane and not come back, but take rebirth when it's choosing to, or karmically required to. Now, you can, through good work, karma yoga, through bhakti yoga, which is service to the divinity within yourself and all that is, you can also move into a higher astral plane at death and experience a greater and greater light, and a lessening of the dark, a lessening of the fears and the torments and the inner anguish, and an increasing of the peace and the joy and the fulfillment and the authenticity of the soul. Now, in order for you, however, to move beyond the astral body, you will need to permanently deal with all of your emotions and karmas, so that at physical death of the corpse here, you can move to the causal plane. The causal plane is a higher vibrational plane, which is just pure mind. It is beyond emotion. And there in the causal plane, where many great spiritual beings and masters are there to support you, to bring you over into the causal pearly gates, if you like, whereby you will need no further physical reincarnation, but you may need to cycle through astral body resurrections and reincarnations in order to finally give up all of the feelings and emotions of separation, of loss, of abandonment, and feel fully united once again with your soul divinity spark, with the one great light of the source of all that is. And even when you're in the causal plane, let's say, with no requirement to come back to the astral body, there is a further step of evolution for the soul consciousness to go beyond the causal plane of just thought and thinking to the full cosmic consciousness, whereby there are no thoughts, there are no feelings, there's no body. It's simply pure joy. Now, I'm sure some of you would love to imagine what that feels like, and probably feeling a little urge and a nudge from your soul right this moment as you're feeling and sensing and intuiting what is pure joy, and maybe just one thing that I really want to do. Well, in any case, we will, at this point, come back together again very soon. I wish you all light and all love and blessings and all joy as you liberate yourself into full cosmic consciousness. Om Namah Shivaya.